Hello, sophomore and junior parents. My name is Dusty Lanier, and I'm a proud 2006 graduate of Wake Forest University. I hope that you got some wonderful time with your demon deacon last week over fall break, and they're back and ready for the second half of the semester. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We will be recording tonight's webinar, so if you can't stay with us for the entire time or you'd like to rewatch, we'll be sending out a link later this week. We have over 400 people on the call today, and we're going to do our very best to answer all of your questions. If you have a question that you haven't already submitted through our Google form, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we'll do our very best to get to every single question. Tonight is going to be a really exciting night. I mentioned that I graduated in 2006, and in many ways, Wake Forest is still the same as it was 20 years ago. We're getting ready for homecoming on Friday, and I'm feeling all nostalgic. But in some ways, Wake Forest is a lot better. And in one of those ways, it's through our Office of Personal and Career Development. Over the last 15 years, we have really innovated our opportunities to ensure that our students are career ready. I get to meet with my colleagues from universities across the country, and people are always envious of what a great program we have here. And the stats really don't lie. I'm sure that you all are aware that our students last year, 98% of them were in a graduate program or employed within 6 months of graduation. We have done so very, very well. And that's really due to the leadership that you're going to have a chance to hear from tonight. The purpose of our webinar is to share with you the resources that your students have available to them and to give you some tips on how you might support them through the college to career efforts. We're going to hear from our great leaders. First, we're going to hear from Andy Chan, and he's going to moderate a conversation with other leaders, Mercy and Heidi. Andy is our Vice President for the Office of Personal and Career Development. And over the last 15 years since coming to Wake Forest from Stanford University, Andy has built an innovative program that includes an alumni center, that includes the college to career courses you're going to hear about, our Center for Entrepreneurship, our summer immersion programs for our pre-college students, as well as our School for Professional Studies. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you again for being here and turn it over to Andy.
Thank you, Dusty, and welcome everyone. It's great to be with you tonight. I know a lot of you are out there, and a lot of you send us a lot of questions. So we're going to do our very best to try to get through as many of them as we can. And if we are not able to get to all of them, we promise we will be posting answers on our webpage and then letting parents know through the Daily Deke that we've done so, or at least an email out to all of you to let you know that we've posted up more information as we pulled it together. We don't get it to it today. So I'd like to get started by introducing my two leaders, and I'm going to first talk to Mercy, but I'll just introduce both of them at the same time here. So Mercy Adiel has worked here at Wake Forest now for about a decade, maybe a little bit longer, and she actually is one of the leaders actually on my team, but also in the School of Business, working for both me and for the Dean of the Business School. Mercy oversees all of the coaches that work with all the students in the business school. And then also she works with and oversees our employer relations team, which I'll go into in a second. Heidi, as many of you might know, she has led and built our college career courses. She now leads all of the operations on the OPCD side, which is in Renolda Hall. She oversees all of our career coaches who work with all of our college students. So every single first and second year, all of the juniors and seniors who are in the college. So that's close to 5,000 students, maybe a little bit more. And she works very closely with all of our faculty and oversees all of the adjunct professors who teach in our college career courses. So I'll come back to Heidi in a little bit. I'm going to talk to Mercy right now because Mercy, given that she oversees our employer relations team, she really knows a lot about what's going on in the market. Just a quick note about our team. So our employer relations team is unique compared to a lot of other schools. A lot of schools will split the business school career office and employer team from the universities. And we put it all together under one leader, and that's Mercy, as a way to actually have just basically a unified approach to how we approach all employers, which has been really great because the employers only have one point of contact and they can recruit any students they want, which actually leads to a lot more opportunities for everyone. There's 7 members on that team. They do outreach. They look for new organizations, including graduate schools. They do a ton of recruiting events like our career fair, which we had a huge one this fall with over I think like 1,200 or was it 1,400 students? I mean, it was a lot of students, 1,300 students, and we had
yeah.
over close to 100 employers. And then we both do on-campus and virtual recruiting engagement with students of all types. And so we work with thousands of employers and students every year, and it's a pretty busy team. It's always it seems like hair's on fire over there. So Mercy, why don't you say hello to everyone, but then also get a little bit into how you see the current hiring market, and in particular hiring market for students who are like juniors or sophomores looking for internships and things like that.
Sure. Well, it's always great to be with you, Andy. It's 12 years at Wake Forest, by the way, and have loved every minute of it. And hello, Wake Forest parents. It's wonderful to be with all of you tonight. We know there's many ways that you can spend your evenings, and we're so thankful that you've decided to spend some time with us today. And we're very grateful for that. And I always like to say thank you also to our Wake Forest parents. Many of you are involved in our recruiting efforts for our students, both for full-time opportunities as well as internships. And a lot of you usually say yes when we reach out to see if there's a student or two that you can connect with. So we're very grateful for the many ways that you support our team. Andy's asked a very important question. You know, I think about even the start of the year, how we were all asking ourselves, are we in a recession or are we not? And I don't know that we still have the answer to that question, but it certainly feels like there's some crazy things that continue to go on in the market. And what I can tell you from a recruiting perspective, you know, there's three things that we look at as we make an assessment on how the market is doing. Currently, for college students, it's still a good time to be a college student and to have plenty of opportunities available to you post-graduation. There is some uncertainty in certain industries, and we'll go through that in just a second. But for the most part, we're tracking very similarly to how we were this time last year. So I want to let you know some of our indicators that we look at. We look at jobs and internships. We look at total number of employers and the students who are involved in our programs, total number of employers who come to campus. And then we also look at the previous year, so class of 2023 employment outcomes, and I'll touch on all three of those. So when we look at our jobs and internships, what we do know is we have over 33,000 jobs that are posted and internships that are posted on our handshake system. And this represents about a 5% increase year over year. And in particular for internships, we have over 10,000 that's already posted as of yesterday. And that is also a really strong number. It's tracking actually pretty closely to where we were last year, which is about 9,500. It's still a bit early for internship recruiting, although there's recruiting happening all the time. We really start to see internship recruiting pick up in the January and spring semester timeframe. The other thing that I mentioned was around total number of employers, and Andy kind of mentioned that in his opening comments. We've had well over 100 employers on campus already, and we're just getting started with over 1,300 students that have participated in one or more of our events that we've already offered out in the fall semester. We also look at our employment outcomes, so for the class of 2023. And what we do know so far, we take a snapshot at graduation, 3 months post-graduation, and then we'll have our next snapshot in November. So just next month, right around the corner. So currently we're sitting at 93% of our students who have reported that they have successfully achieved either a job or graduate school outcomes. And if you think about the split between those, it's roughly about 70% who will go on to pursue a job and about 30% or so that will go on to pursue graduate school outcomes. So any way you look at it in terms of the outcomes piece of it, I think we're trending pretty good. We usually land between 97 to 98% at the 6-month mark. And we're all continuing to work very hard to close that gap and make sure that we get to 100% if we can this year. But we're really tracking very closely to where we were last year.
Thanks, Mercy, for that setup. Now, you mentioned the whole idea of different industries are maybe a little bit hotter than others. Which are the ones that you and your team are seeing are pretty robust right now?
Definitely. So there's a handful that are really hot right now in terms of there's lots of different opportunities across different functions. So I'll start with e-commerce. If you think of companies like Instacart, Grubhub, Square, these are organizations that are always looking for bright talent to join their teams because they're growing at a very rapid rate. If you think about healthcare, that's another area that's pretty hot right now, mainly in healthcare services. So if you think about roles where the organization is trying to match a consumer with the right healthcare provider, those kinds of organizations are popping up everywhere, and they're doing quite well. So it's not necessarily the technical jobs in terms of physician and nursing, if you will, but it's more those business operations and business related roles that are really hot in healthcare. Technology is not a surprise that there's growing emerging companies, particularly in AI and chat GPT. Cybersecurity and, of course, cloud computing remains very strong as well. I'm going to mention financial services and consulting just because they're always hiring, but maybe not at the same rate as they did the year before. But they're certainly not slowing down in terms of investing in talent, but they just may not be able to hire as many as they did the previous year. And then I'll talk about education and consumer goods. So education, Teacher America, organizations like that are hiring lots of teachers and different needs that they have in their organization, as well as online education. And then consumer goods, particularly for international markets, is very hot right now as well. If you think about companies like Unilever and General Mills, they're doing a lot of hiring. Andy, you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's
That's
okay.
actually a lot more, in some ways it feels like a lot more positive than you might expect, but maybe talk just briefly about the difference between maybe what's going on in the full-time market and internship market, and why companies would still hire a lot of interns, even though their full-time market might be a little bit softer given the uncertainty of the economy over the next, 6 to 12 months. I think there is a difference in why there are internships available.
Right. I think right now, when you think on the full-time front, because there's still so much uncertainty going on, in particular with this war and just other issues politically that are happening, companies are not able to fully commit to a full-time hiring circle, almost 7 to 8 months before they're ready to start their roles. So that's really
Yep.
the bottom line on that. And
Yep.
truthfully, that's always been the case. There's really not, there's so many more companies that hire just in time than
Yep.
they would a traditional university recruiting cycle. So that's what's going on with the full-time market. It's just still a lot of uncertainty there. For internships, it's really just a different type of value proposition for an organization. Given the uncertainty, they still need people to get some work done, do some research, have some projects that some manager has on the side of their desk that they can't get done. And there's no commitment to a full-time role. It's a 8 to 10 week timeline, and they get what they need. The student gets what they need in terms of skills development, professional experiences, and it's a win-win for both parties. The challenge is when you look at roles like in investment banking or the competitive consulting roles, the pathway to full-time is typically through your internship. So again, with just things still stabilizing, they're still hiring for interns in terms of financial services and consulting, but it's too soon for them to tell how large of a class that they can bring in.
Okay, that's really great. I'm curious, you obviously get a lot of feedback from recruiters about just recruiting at Wake Forest and why they choose Wake Forest, potentially even over recruiting at other schools. Can you talk a little bit about that, both in terms of maybe especially about our students, like what are they saying and why and how do our students stand out? Because I think a lot of times people have this misperception that Wake isn't as well known as an Ivy League school or some other school. And so they sort of perceive that maybe our students have a disadvantage, but maybe can you talk about what we do and why, also how employers really feel like we're not as sort of unknown as maybe the general public might think?
Well, let me just say, Wake Forest students absolutely make my job so easy. And the reason why they make it easy is because of their exceptional preparation, the amazing academic preparation that they're getting as well, and just their overall professionalism. I mean, when I talk to our employers, they're always talking about how our Wake Forest students go the extra mile. Their communication, their preparation. I mean, it's just from end to end, our students are really performing well in the market. A big, I think, reason why that's happening too is because they're working for a lot of employers that actually have Wake Forest parents and alumni who are within those organizations that are investing in mentoring our students as well and helping them grow and develop. So there's that additional level of support and investment in the success of our students at these organizations. And so I will tell you, when I started 12 years ago, we were really a regional recruiting school. We had a lot of organizations locally and just kind of Charlotte, Atlanta, closer to us. But now we've really earned a very strong reputation in the bigger markets, New York, DC. We have a growing presence in our analytics program on the West Coast. So I think that part of it for us is that we need to stay the course, keep doing what we do as an institution to invest in our students and ensure that they are prepared when they go out to the market. And I think things like internships, summer experiences, all of those things add to our students' preparation. So when they show up, our employers are really, really impressed. The other thing I'll say, Andy, and you know this, is that we do survey our employers multiple times throughout the year. And our average net promoter score from our employers is around 70. And that's really exceptional. For those of you who follow NPS or you abide by that within your organizations, you know that 50 is really good. So getting a 70 is really exciting. And I know that that wouldn't happen just at the, merits of our team, but it really is an institutional effort in investing in the preparation of our students. And our employers love coming back to campus to recruit.
Well, something that people may not know out there, but you and I long ago worked at Stanford, and we learned a lot about MBA level recruiting at a top school.
Yes.
And we bring a little of that philosophy to Wake Forest, and hopefully I think it is really paying off when it comes to like what meeting the expectations of recruiters. And so if you happen to have a company out there that wants to recruit students and have a great experience doing it, definitely think about contacting Mercy, and Mercy will and her team will get you set up really well. So one of the things that people sometimes get a little confused about is they think that, fall is the big recruiting season. Once fall is over, like there's nothing. And we know that's not the case. And maybe you can talk a little bit about what goes on in the spring. What kind of opportunities do we see? How do we help students? What kind of events do we put on? Things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just getting started, by the way. I think I may have mentioned that earlier. We actually have a virtual recruiting event that's coming up on the 19th. So we're still going to continue with virtual efforts for the remaining of the semester and also on campus. But for the spring semester, our spring career fair is on January 24th. And we'll have probably close to 70, 80 employers at that particular event. And then we'll have a dozen or so targeted networking nights. So if you think about, for the smaller, maybe medium boutique type firms, we'll offer up consulting networking night, financial services, STEM, analytics, nonprofit, healthcare. I mean, there's so many that we're going to offer during the spring semester that if your student says there's nothing for me, challenge them on that because or have them get in touch with me, because we can certainly make sure that they're aware of the different opportunities that come up through our handshake system.
Right.
So we have multiple events all throughout the year, but in particular, the springtime is important to us, especially for those just-in-time hires. So if your student is interested in sports, media, entertainment, some of the theater, arts, those type of jobs don't come to campus generally because they are super competitive. and they don't need to, quite frankly. And so we try to really support students by having a networking based approach. And we really start to reach out and help them facilitate connections with Wake Forest alums, and really try to work with them on finding those opportunities. There are some that will come to campus, but very few. When I checked the system even a couple of weeks ago, we had over 1,600 employers that have posted jobs for those pathways that don't necessarily come to campus, like the fashion, arts, media, sports type jobs. So we currently have about 1,600 in the system that are recruiting for jobs and internships.
That's great. That's really good. One thing that I think a lot of people know is that recruiting's really changed. Like, not all companies come to campus. They do a lot of virtual stuff. Students have to really be prepared on how to do that, because that may not be something they're used to. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ways that we help students with that, but also the resources that we provide for them so they can actually make sure they have a good interview experience?
Absolutely. This has been a significant shift for us, particularly during COVID and now post-COVID, because employers are starting to see that they can reach more schools by connecting with students virtually. And so this has really been a great thing for universities, and also to give more access to more students. And so virtual recruiting is here to stay, and we offer many resources, particularly online with the OPCD website, on how students can practice using some virtual platforms like Interview Stream, so that they can get more comfortable in a virtual kind of environment. And it is different because you don't necessarily feel that energy of the person sitting right across from you. And so it's challenging. And so we try to provide these tools and tips and resources so students can practice. And they can, by the way, practice with our coaches as well. There are many things that we do to provide support in addition to those tips. If students do have virtual interviews, we actually open up our recruiting suite so that students have more of a professional setting where they can accept those calls and interviews. And so they can schedule and book an interview room to conduct that virtual interview experience. And I think that's really positive for them too, so they don't have to clean up their dorm rooms or whatever, and have a professional environment that they could be interviewing from. And so I just, I can't stress enough, particularly when you're interviewing, period. It's really important to practice, and to practice well with a professional. And so please reach out to our coaches to make sure that you're getting the proper preparation and tips necessarily to really come across well virtually.
Great. Thanks, Mercy. I have one last question that has sort of two parts to it. It's basically, we have some parents online who their children are sophomores. And the question is, when you think about internship between sophomore and junior year, how critical is that? What's the pros and cons of it? If I don't get one, what kind of things should I do? And then sort of related is, are there particular sectors where having that internship really matters a lot versus maybe less in others? So I know, I'm sort of referring to the whole finance consulting area, which tends to be more competitive, but why don't you talk to that?
Well, in general, sophomore internships are pretty rare, and they're unique in that a lot of organizations do not have formal sophomore internships. And one of the reasons why is because there isn't really a pathway possibly to a full-time role. But they're always willing to give students, an opportunity to learn a new skill or do a project, but it's not like a formal internship as we would think, like an 8 to 10 week type of assignment. So the question is, should my student have one? I would say focus more on getting some kind of professional experience and using less of the language around a sophomore internship. And I'm going to say in general, the most important thing is just experience and skill building. For investment banking and some consulting firms, they have more formal sophomore internships. They're not the only ones, by the way. A lot of the bigger companies do too, but they're very competitive. And they're generally designed to reach students from certain identity-based groups. So if you think about for women, for students of color, for first gen, and the reason why they do that is to try to give them early access to increase their comfort in these kinds of organizations and environments. And they use it as skill building opportunities as well. And so what I would say is, if your child is interested or student is interested in investment banking, if they don't get that sophomore internship, it's not a big deal. Trust me when I say this, the majority of our students do not have that sophomore internship. But I would say having some skill building and competency development in areas that will make you attractive and competitive. So if I think about investment banking consulting, it's the data analysis, it's the presentation skills, it's the communication and teamwork. So if you can show those things through your summer experience and through your coursework and through your leadership skills at Wake Forest, one of the things Heidi and I always talk about is how students undervalue their experience right here at Wake Forest. And we all know, I mean, they are learning some really important things. And so our work is to help them unpack that and package it in a way that shows, here are the skills and the experiences that I have and why it would be great for your organization. So I hope that helps. But I would say it is not as important, although it can help you be distinctive. But because there's so few spots, I don't want students to just overly focus on that. I want them to really focus on just getting some summer experience.
Great. Thank you, Mercy. That was great. Thank you for all the answers. I'm going to do a little transition and go to Heidi.
Okay.
And we'll have you come back at the end.
Sounds good.
Hey, Heidi, I got a little scratch in my throat, so I'm going to just say quickly a quick question. Sorry. And maybe you can give me some advice on if I have a student who's looking for an internship,
what they can
what
do.
should they do?
Perfect. I'd be happy to start right there, because I think that is the question that I hear so much right now. What should my student be doing if they are in this search? And one of the first things that I like to help students think through is to remove that idea of the dreaded I word or internship word. Similar to what Mercy was just saying, is to think about getting experience and building professional skills, because there are so many fabulous opportunities that don't actually come labeled necessarily as an internship, and they may not even come necessarily labeled on one of our job search platforms like Handshake. They might be experiences that we can help students find. So things that they should be doing: first, thinking experience, and thinking, how can I build skills? So I think one of the first things that I would say is to think broadly, to go ahead and think, what are the kinds of skills I'd like to build, and what are the places I would like to explore? Many times students hear the chatter from their friends or from roommates or from other people that they may know on campus that there are very specific kinds of opportunities that they should pursue. And what I would love for students to do is to sort of take off those narrow parameters and actually begin to think about the different kinds of opportunities that may be there for them. Some of those great experiences come unknown. And so being willing to be flexible about the experience that they have to build skills. Coming in and letting us start to have those conversations with students is really helpful, because then we can open all of the doors and resources that they may find helpful that are here in our office and that Wake Forest has already purchased for them. The other place to start having conversations is just with other folks, with professors, with the people we would call their adult fans. That might be parents, but it might also be alumni who are 2 or 3 years out, thinking about how did they get their summer experience, and thinking about it as an opportunity to let people know what you're looking for. We are encouraging students to apply to more than 30 different opportunities. Now, not all at once. That would be a lot. Not even fall break would give them that much time, as busy as your students are. But we do want them to go ahead and cast a wide net. Apply to 30 things and really focus on your top 10 to find our Wake Forest allies within those organizations. We have so many resources to support your student in this search. One of the the most robust, and indeed, really, I would consider one of the most powerful Wake Forest opportunities is leaning into the people who already know Wake Forest and the Wake Forest student power, so to speak. And that would be our alumni. And so our LinkedIn groups that we have are robust. I love that word because it's what makes me, it's how I think about the people that I speak to who are our young alums who are saying, please send me more Wake Forest students. The last thing I would say is thinking through this idea of where do you want to be and using a resource we call Wake Communities, where you can find the groups, the alumni groups who are in different geographic areas. If someone wants to be in Austin, going ahead and looking at who's already there and who are the young alums I could reach out to in Austin. And finally, I would say go ahead and remind yourself that you don't have to wait for summer to start getting that professional experience. So what I have been encouraging students to do and to think through for Thanksgiving break, but definitely for winter break, using Parker Dewey to find micro internships, using another platform for nonprofits who need project work called Catch a Fire. And then finally, there is something called the Forage, and it's an opportunity for students to do projects for very well-known corporate names, Bank of America, Lululemon, to do these 2 or 3 hour projects that they can then talk about, but then are also reviewed by someone who is a member of that organization. It increases the likelihood that if they apply to that organization, they will get into that interview pool. Let's see, Andy, I can't hear you quite yet.
Sorry about that. So I apologize. I was wondering what the question that gets asked a lot by people is, we use Handshake as a tool to connect students and employers. We use it a way for students to connect to our office. It helps us really track them and understand what they're thinking, what they're doing. And we have some students who use it really, really well, and some students who probably don't use everything that's in there. Can you speak a little bit to how to use Handshake well as a tool, why we endorse it, but also at the same time, help people also understand it's not the only tool. Like there are other things that we ask students to think about so that we don't rely on it as like, this is the only way to get a job. So if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. One of the reasons we talk a lot about Handshake is because not only is it a place for students to find opportunity, but it lets us also know what a student may have set up in their profile as an interest area. So Handshake can be helpful because students can find opportunities there. Absolutely. And employers find our students there, which is also great. But if a student expresses an interest, for example, in engineering or in healthcare or nonprofits, it allows us to be able to push opportunities, events, and different ideas to that student as they're exploring. So Handshake is great for a number of those different things. Beyond Handshake, as those different kinds of functions, students can also use it to set up filters or saved searches. So if I am that student who's interested in nonprofits in Austin, for example, I can go ahead and set up filters for Austin and nonprofit internships, for example. And it will not only give me the results for that search, but I can ask Handshake to send me new opportunities that meet those parameters of mine when they pop up into the system. So that is a great place, a couple of the pieces of Handshake that we want students using. So keeping that profile updated lets us communicate to them with the most recent kinds of opportunities that we see, but also interests that they have. That is really helpful, and to have those saved searches. So very important. The other thing, though, I would say is I was speaking to our LinkedIn network and our powerful groups, and I do like to use that again because it really is one of the ways that students uncover what we would call the hidden job market. And those might be the opportunities that are not yet posted or are not yet even developed, but our alums who are out in the marketplace know about them, or know that they are coming, or know that there's a project that one of our students can be doing alongside them. And so I would say using LinkedIn both as a search tool in terms of opportunities and going ahead and setting up some of those saved searches there as well, and also finding our people who are at the organizations that matter to that student.
Thank you, Heidi. Another question is the career courses. Talk a little bit about the career courses, and then if for any reason a student can't get in one, how maybe they can best use career core, and then if for some reason they don't like career core, how to best work with a coach.
I love it. Our career courses we are constantly and consistently trying to expand the seats in those areas by making sure that we have as many sections open as we can. And that doesn't always fit into a student's schedule. So we do have not only the courses, but other ways for students to go ahead and engage. I'll speak to the courses first. We have a series of 4 courses that all are within the Department of Education here on campus. So the prefix is EDU, and students call them the EDU courses, which always tickles me. But we have courses that essentially answer the big questions that all human beings have to answer. Who am I? What's out there for me? How do I go ahead and land an opportunity? And finally, once I'm out in the world, how can I thrive? What are the professional skills and experiences I need to be able to be very effective on the job? So those 4 courses can be taken as half semester courses and fit into a student's schedule as they are able, or we have some students who will take 2 at one time during a semester and really go ahead and use that semester and that course time to go ahead and make a lot of forward momentum, so to speak, on their own professional development. So those are all 1.5 credits. And students often will start in one half of the semester with the first course and then go ahead and decide they're actually going to do the whole semester because they've got enough momentum that they want to go ahead and continue what they're doing. There are times that if I have a student who's a sophomore and they've completed the first 2 courses, I don't see them again for a minute because they've actually learned the skills and competencies that they need to get them where they need to go next. And I might not see them until they're seniors again. For students who are not in the courses, we have open drop-in office hours every Thursday from 3:30 to 5. And some students genuinely come at 3:15 and just hang out until we go ahead and say, all right, I think you need some dinner. So that is a wonderful way for students to come in and work in groups. So it's a very friendly, fun atmosphere, and we have coaches in the room. So students can get some help and then kind of work on things and then come back and get some immediate feedback. Additionally, we have drop-in hours Monday through Thursday from 1:30 to 4:30. And they are 15 minutes in length. And some students come on in, use that first 15-minute drop-in, get a little bit of feedback, and they might go back out to our waiting room and see if they can pick one more up before dinner. But those are wonderful ways for students to engage with our office without having to go ahead and know everything before they get here. I would say that the drop-in hours, office hours, and the career courses all offer an entree point for students to go ahead and get started in a way that doesn't seem intimidating.
That's great, Heidi. One last question I have for you before I pass you over to work with our students and share their stories. Our engineering program is a budding one, but has been very successful. The sort of the outcome, first destination rates for those students is very, very strong. Can you talk a bit about why that is, but also the kind of support and partnership we have with the engineering department and how we help those students, whether they want to go to grad school of some kind or whether they want to go to business careers of some kind or engineering careers, just give a little lay of the land of how that all works.
Right. The engineering program is a special one because we were invited in from the very beginning to go ahead and work with their faculty and with their students. And one of the things that I would say is interesting about that program and our relationship with the engineering program and students is that a lot of their faculty have actually embedded career competencies into the syllabi and into their actually academic work. So some of those engineering professors are actually making it mandatory for students to come on in and do their resume up here with one of our coaches, which is wonderful. They've actually incorporated a number of different kinds of career coursework, kinds of assignments into an overarching engineering grade. So that has actually been helpful to help them with that and develop those pieces from the beginning. one of the other things that we've been able to do is to directly promote some of our engineering programs with employers who have contacted us to say they are looking for engineering students. So we've been able to really go ahead and connect faculty members with employers who are specifically looking for engineering students. And there's been a lot of mutual support from our employer relations department and from our team, really with alongside the faculty, which really makes a nice marriage of support for students. We have had one-on-one employer and grad school outreach calls. Our students have gone to virtual engineering fairs that have been sponsored by other universities, but want our students in those fairs. And then we've also done a virtual STEM and analytics networking night that we've done that in the past in person. And what we found is that if we can do that virtually in the spring, which is one of the things that we're looking to do for those engineering juniors and seniors, is that allows them to really go ahead and think beyond what some of the maybe preconceived notions of what they'll do with their engineering degree might be, and to think broadly about all of the opportunities that are out there.
Heidi, you are just so knowledgeable about so many different directions our students go into, and obviously all the resources we provide. I just really appreciate you very much. I'm going to let you take it from here, introduce our students to share some of their experiences, and I'll see you at the end in the last 5 minutes for a final word.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Heidi.
It is such a pleasure to be with parents, because I am so grateful that you have made it possible for us to know your children and to support them. And right now we have 3 of our students that I would like to introduce you to, and for us to get to hear from them. Really, one of the greatest gifts that we have is listening to our student voices. So we are joined tonight by 3 of our students, 2 sophomores and a junior, to go ahead and think a little bit through what we might learn, not only from them, but also some of the success strategies that they have used as they have pursued summer experiences. So I will ask you both to unmute, if you will, and introduce yourselves, as well as perhaps where you are from and kind of the things you're interested in.
Hi, I'm Lily Hustis. I am a sophomore and I'm interested in marketing and entrepreneurship. And I'm from Athens, Georgia.
Perfect. So I'm Ansley Sothin. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska. Yes, Nebraska. I'm one of the only ones here representing the state. And I am a pre-med student. I'm also a sophomore, and I plan on majoring in health and exercise science and minoring in entrepreneurship and chemistry.
Thank you. Welcome, Tamba. We're doing introductions.
Hello, my name is Tamba. I'm a junior. I'm a major in sociology with a concentration in business and society, and a minor in global trade and commerce, and I'm from New York City.
Thank you to all 3 of you for being here with us. I think where I'd like to start is just thinking about what your internship search is like right now. I know all 3 of you have been very deep into this preparation process and now actually into the application process. I wonder if you could speak to the kinds of things that you're doing and sort of the pieces that might be important for parents to know.
Okay. I kind of feel like the internship, looking for an internship, the process started at the beginning of the year for me, with going over my resume again, updating it with different things I had done over the summer, updating it with things I was planning to do this year, kind of narrowing things down, and then coming back into the OPCD and getting help and clarity on things that I weren't sure how to phrase, and different pointers that so many people in the OPCD can help with, just refining your resume. And from then I was able to look at my LinkedIn and update my LinkedIn from there and start actually looking for resumes, which on the OPCD website, I feel like, and Handshake, those combined have everything you could want in any kind of category, like marketing, business, pre-med, pre-law, whatever you want. And it is great just to look through all of them. They even have ones that are specific to the week, specific to the day, everything like that.
I love it, Lily. Yes. So using all of those resources and really hopping in and using the things that you can find online, but also in the office, sort of a combo of both. And Tomba, one of the things that sort of related to what Lily was just saying is you have really been great about finding on-campus opportunities to prepare. When I was thinking some of the competitions that you have been in, could you speak to how you have found opportunities to skill build, but also that have really helped you as you prepare?
So I want to get into consulting or data analytics, and I found 2 opportunities on campus that allowed me to like enhance my abilities to do well in those fields and also add something on the resume that will attract companies that are willing to like understand and see how they can help. One case competition that I've done was the KPMG competition, and I found this out through an RA class. So the person that was sitting next to me told me about it, and we teamed up and got to do it. And the second one we also found together, and that one was a data analytics case competition. And it was kind of nerve-wracking a little bit because it was mostly graduate students. But since I did the first case competition, it allowed me to have more confidence and more comfort about doing more competitions. And we were able to get the win through that. And it was good to post on LinkedIn as well. And also get the opportunity to network with people from EY that were part of the competition, and KPMG as well. And also like just build the LinkedIn network and try to network more, as that's the best opportunity to get more jobs and more experience.
All right, Tom, but I just want to reinforce something that you kind of low key mentioned, which was that you won. All right,
Yeah.
it had to be said. It had to be said, Tamba. Yes. So Lily is saying using online and in-person resources, and then Tamba really finding those campus opportunities and experiences where you can network, where you can go ahead and you have gotten tremendous opportunities to show all of your skills and to really prove that you've got the chops to get that consulting internship. So all of those things. And then I'm going to pivot over to Ansley, because Ansley, I think about what both Lily and Tamba have said and how with your experience in your internship last year, you've really been thinking about how that creates momentum for this next time and how we put that on your resume. Will you speak to leveraging last summer to get the next summer's experience?
Yes, of course. So my application for my internship last summer, that whole surge kind of started actually around this time when I joined your EDU 220 class, and I definitely was able to take advantage of all the online resources, like the virtual career fair, using Handshake, and honestly searching every single site I could, and all of the in-person events as well, like the in-person career fair, and just getting to know different alumni throughout our network. And so my internship last year was international. So I was based in Rome, Italy, doing research for a blood cancer research organization. And my boss is actually an adjunct professor here at Northwestern. And the other team that we were working with for our project is based at Columbia University as well. So even though I was working abroad, I was still able to make a lot of connections with really great universities, and actually med schools I would love to be accepted to here in the future. So I think just being one of the only students there, actually like doing the hands-on work, doing all the nitty-gritty of the research itself, and being able to foster those connections is something that I can really emphasize on my resume. And something that is just a great way to get my name out there as well, mainly because my name is being published on our paper here in the next couple of months, which as a freshman, I think is something that was very rewarding and something that I can't wait to build on these next couple summers.
Nicely said. So taking that amazing experience and going ahead, making sure we've told your story on your resume, and thinking about what the experience was supposed to be, which was clarifying. For each of you, you have had experience on campus, off campus, as young professionals where you have gotten clear about the kinds of things you might like to explore next, and knowing that all experience counts. So because we're here with parents, what I would love to do is I'd love to ask you about what advice you would give to parents as their sophomores and juniors are in the internship search. What advice do you have for parents?
Definitely just being supportive, offering any advice that you can. I know one of the places I'm applying for an internship at, my mom actually worked there when she was fresh out of grad school. So like just getting to hear like about different places, and like I'm sure a lot of people's parents know people that you can talk to, along with finding alumni from Wake and talking to them about their experience working there. There's also people that you can have other connections with, and that's one of the most important things about finding internships is your connections and how you can get those connections, and from there you can get informal interviews and just get to sit and talk and see if that's a good fit with somebody who already works there.
Nicely said. So being willing to have the conversations with your student and saying, how can I help you? Or are there things we can think through together? I love it. Thank you, Lily. That was perfect. Ansley or Tamba, would you like to jump in?
Yes, I can go. I think what I would say is honestly, as parents, harp on your kids and always be that biggest advocator to actually get them to do it. I know that doesn't sound the best, but personally, I know myself and a lot of my friends, we tend to procrastinate things like that just because we're more consumed with all of our work that we have, all of our tests that are coming up, and that just kind of goes to the back of our mind. Whereas like my mom and dad, I know you're out there, thank you so much. We're always texting me like, oh, did you do this? Did you schedule your interviews? What about this? Why don't you look at this? And I honestly think that that really made me sit down, get my resume together, get my application together, and get all of that sent in. Because I also found out that I was accepted to my internship program about 2 weeks after I submitted my application, where I know that's not the case for a lot of programs. And if that didn't happen, like say I had that maybe like 5-ish weeks in between, I wouldn't have, I guess, been ready to apply anywhere else because I did only apply to that one program. So if my situation was different, I definitely feel like I would need that constant reminder to apply, just to make sure that I would be able to have that opportunity.
So in case students aren't aware of the resources or support that is here, that parents can sort of help be that voice of saying, you don't have to do this by yourself. There are folks who want to help you if you would like to go ahead and get this piece done and jump in. Thank you, Ansley. All right, Tamba, you want to bring it home? What else do parents need to know? What advice do you have for parents?
Something I would say is very good emphasis on being supportive, because I'm taking the EDU class with Helen Morgan, and there was an assignment that we did. It was called adult fans assignment. So we basically had to reach out to like adult fans and have them tell us things that we don't know about ourselves, or try to be a better advocate about our skills or some skills that we don't know. And when we did the discussion in class, most students felt more confident in their abilities to apply to more internships and also like get out there and network more. So I feel like having that good conversation with your parents or people that you love, telling you who you are and the good things that you're good at, is a great motivator.
Oh, I love that, Tamba. So reminding our students, reminding a parent's student how important their skills, how valued they are, and to affirm to them that they've got something to offer in this professional experience world, to remind them. I had this conversation with a student today that iron sharpens iron, and sometimes at Wake Forest, students forget how great they are. So I love that that's a special role that parents can have. Lily, Ansley, Tamba, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your experience. I'll go ahead, and I know we're getting ready to wrap up. So Andy, I see you joining me. I will go ahead and hand things back to you.
Thank you, Heidi, and thank you for finding such wonderful students who are really making the most of their time here at Wake Forest, using all the resources not only available with us, but throughout campus, and really just getting engaged in things that otherwise you know, it might feel a little bit like I don't have time for, I can't make time, but they just stepped right into it and made the most of it. Nice also to know that they don't mind it that much, you know, their parents actually bugging them a little bit to make sure they're doing the right thing. And so that's great. I know that not all students would like that, but it's nice that Ainsley had a good experience with that too. And we know that the number one reason why students oftentimes come to our office is because they want to get their parents off their back. And they said their parents told me to get here. And that's a lot of reasons why we even do this kind of webinar, is that we're actually trying to make sure the parents know what the process is, but also how they can best help their student. So I'll ask Mercy and then Heidi, and then I'll wrap with one final word is, so Mercy, what would you say as a word of advice or suggestion to parents who are parents of sophomores or juniors, how to think about this process, how to best support their student?
Yeah, I just want to channel our students. I mean, they really had some excellent advice. One of the things that I hear a lot is, I'm not ready to come in and see someone in the OPCD or in the business school. And so I need to have myself together before I go in and see a coach. And so one of the things I think Heidi and her team do an exceptional job of is meeting students where they are. So you'll always see them everywhere on campus. They have, like, you know, informal ways to connect. But the one thing I think that she instituted a couple of years ago was just office hours. So there's no pressure. You don't have to come in and schedule an appointment. Heidi, I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, but I think this is so key for our students. And I was just connecting with Patrick. It's Monday through Thursdays from 1:30 to 4:30. We have office hours available. Again, students don't have to make appointments. I would encourage you to just have your students stop by. And even if they say, I don't know why I'm here, it's okay. We'll help them for sure.
I love that, Mercy. And just sort of to go ahead and connect my word of advice to yours, I would say they don't have to come by themselves either. We know that Gen Z may very well enjoy traveling in pairs or in packs. And so we would say those office hours, they can bring a roommate, they can bring one of their dear friends, they can bring anybody, they can come by themselves. All of these ways sometimes make it more accessible to come on in and get started. Our coaching appointments can be individual. And today I met with 3 students who wanted to come in as a trio, which was so much fun. So I just encourage the same thing that Mercy said, which is just to go ahead and know that they can come in wherever they are in this process. And what they often need to hear from parents is, we know you've got this, and you've got a team that'll help you with it.
Great. Thanks, Heidi. And the one thing that I would say that comes to mind is, for you parents out there, is be incredibly encouraging and positive, that you really believe in them, that it will all work out, that even if they feel like it won't, that you still believe in them, that it will, even if they're confused, continue to sort of support them, to say, you know, just keep trying, like keep trying. One of the things that I think can happen is our young people these days want an answer really quickly, and they want to be able to get what they want when they ask for it. And oftentimes either it's too late, or they might get a maybe, or, well, you've got to actually do these 5 things before you can get to the next level. And the reason why I say that is we know persistence really does help. So they may actually meet one of our coaches. They could even meet me, and after meeting me could say, I didn't really get what I was thinking of. I definitely don't think that office can help me. I'm never going back again. And so you might actually get that experience or feedback from your student. And I think, as Betsy Chapman writes in the Daily Deke, it's like, maybe give them an example of when you actually got maybe a little frustrated that you didn't get exactly what you want, what you did to actually find a way to get information from someone else. You know, is there someone else you could ask, or is there someone else? And I know the first answer will be, I don't want to waste my time. But I would say, you're not wasting your time. Like, there's got to be someone there. Like if every single student there actually gets a job, like, you're going to get one. It's a matter of like how fast it's going to happen. And you got to find someone who's really going to help you there. you can tell we all want to help every single one of our students, but sometimes maybe the chemistry wasn't great, or either one of us had a bad day. And so I'm just saying that to say, just keep trying, just keep pushing. I have some students, and I'm sure Heidi has many stories where students came in and they're just like upset and crying and frustrated and feeling like no one can help them. And, a month or 2 or 3 later, all of a sudden they're like walking on water, but it takes time. So I just say, be patient with them and keep pushing them to be persistent. I can tell Heidi wants to add one final thought after that.
I do, Andy. When you were talking, I just felt like I just wanted to say one thing to parents. Your students all think they're behind. They all think that they have not done enough yet, and that perhaps they are already blowing it. And what I would love for you to hear, but I continue to say to every student who is in front of me, you are not behind. This race is not blown. There is more time in front of us than there is behind us. So they might need to hear that from you too. They're not behind. As long as they're taking a few steps forward, they're right where they should be.
Great. Thank you. Well, with that, as you can tell, we love what we do. We love Wake Forest. We love your students, and we're here for them. We have a huge team of people. We have more people on this team than any school our size, I'll be honest with you. And it comes from the support of alumni and parents, both in terms of financial support as well as employment support. So if you actually have some interest in helping us, please talk to any of the 3 of us, to Dusty, and know that and Minta, and just know that we are 100% like for your students, and we will help make sure that they get to a successful place, and especially be very career ready, life ready as they get through Wake Forest. So thank you very much for your time tonight. And like I said, if we didn't answer any questions, we'll do our best to put them online, and we'll hopefully see your students very soon in our office. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.